On the morning of July 16th, 2025, Fairbanks International Airport awoke to a day like any other. The air was crisp, carrying the subtle aroma of jet fuel mingled with pine as the first light of dawn kissed the horizon. The Alaskan sun bathed the tarmac in a warm glow, transforming the runways into a canvas of gold and amber. It was a scene both routine and awe-inspiring, a daily testament to the beauty and solitude of this northern frontier. Inside, families and business travelers navigated the terminal, each absorbed in their own thoughts. Some held steaming cups of coffee, others glanced at their phones, while children pressed their noses against the glass, captivated by the planes taxiing by. The air buzzed with conversation, the rhythmic roll of suitcase wheels, and the distant rumble of jet engines. It was a symphony of the ordinary, a comforting backdrop to the dawn of a new day. Overlooked by most, a small single-engine plane sat quietly at the edge of the general aviation field, blending into the landscape far from the bustling main terminal. Airport staff and ground crews carried out their duties with practiced precision, guiding jets and announcing boardings. Their seamless efficiency kept the airport humming as it had for years. The airport stood as a bastion of order amidst the untamed wilderness. Beyond the glass walls, endless forests and snow-capped peaks stretched to the horizon, a stark contrast to the orchestrated chaos within. Every protocol was crafted to avert the unforeseen. Security checks, flight plans and radio communications formed a safety net, woven tighter with each passing year. Yet on this day, the unforeseen was already unfolding, a silent threat poised to reveal itself. Unnoticed by most, subtle signs hinted at something amiss, lost in the morning's hustle. The notion that this bubble of normalcy was about to burst was unimaginable. Passengers waited, oblivious, their thoughts on meetings, reunions and adventures ahead. The vast wilderness encircling Fairbanks stood as a silent observer. It had witnessed centuries of change, but nothing quite like what was about to transpire. Soon the world would turn its gaze to Fairbanks for a very different reason. In mere hours, this remote airport would become the epicenter of global attention, its tranquil morning forever altered. The first sign of trouble was almost imperceptible. A small, single-engine plane began to move along the tarmac, rolling forward without any clearance or communication from the tower. At first it seemed like a simple mistake, a momentary lapse in protocol. But as the seconds ticked by, the unease in the control tower grew. Its transponder was dark, making it invisible to the airport's tracking systems. On the radar, there was only a blank space where the plane should have been, a ghost slipping through the cracks of airport security. Air traffic controllers radioed urgently, "Unidentified aircraft, you are not cleared for movement. Acknowledge immediately." Their voices grew tense, echoing through the tower as they tried to regain control of the situation. The plane ignored every command, turning deliberately toward an active runway, its intentions unclear but its defiance unmistakable. Suddenly, it accelerated, not to take off, but to collide. The engine roared as the aircraft surged forward, its path set on a collision course. Its target was clear: Alaska Airlines Flight 1282, a fully boarded Boeing 737, moments away from departure, filled with unsuspecting passengers and crew. The small plane lifted off, flying dangerously low and direct, skimming just above the runway as it hurtled toward the much larger jet. Passengers on the 737 saw it coming, at first just a distant speck, then a rapidly growing shape. Curiosity turned to terror as they realized the threat bearing down on them. The rogue plane struck the jet's wing with devastating force, metal shearing against metal in a violent, shattering impact. An explosion of metal and fire ripped through the morning calm, sending a shockwave across the tarmac and filling the air with debris. The 737's wing erupted in a fireball, black smoke billowing into the sky, visible for miles around as chaos unfolded below. Debris rained down. Inside, passengers were thrown violently from their seats. The cabin plunged into darkness and chaos as alarms blared and oxygen masks dropped. The airport's ordinary morning was shattered in an instant, the routine of travel replaced by panic and confusion. The shockwave rattled windows across the terminal, glass trembling as the force of the blast reverberated through the building. People dropped to the floor, instinctively seeking cover from the unknown threat, hearts pounding as alarms echoed overhead. The calm was replaced by shrieks and cries, the sound of fear spreading through the terminal as people scrambled for safety. The burning airliner was a vision of horror, flames licking at the fuselage as emergency vehicles raced toward the scene, sirens wailing. This was no accident. This was a deliberate, targeted attack, a calculated act meant to inflict maximum damage and terror. The breach was not just physical. It shattered the trust that underpins modern air travel, leaving travellers everywhere to question their safety. In a matter of seconds, Fairbanks became the epicenter of a national crisis. The world had changed, and nothing would ever be the same for those who witnessed the breach in the sky. Inside the terminal, confusion and fear took over. No one knew what had happened, crash, accident, or attack. Parents shielded their children, strangers clung to each other. Cell networks jammed as people frantically tried to call loved ones. On board Flight 1282, smoke filled the cabin as flight attendants shouted, "Unbuckle! Leave everything this way!" Passengers stumbled toward emergency exits driven by survival. Outside, emergency vehicles raced to the burning jet. Airport staff tried to move crowds to safety, but many were frozen, transfixed by the smoke. The sense of safety was gone. Everyone felt exposed and powerless. In minutes, Fairbanks was no longer a gateway, but the epicenter of a national trauma. The response was immediate. Firefighters raced across the airfield, risking their lives to battle the blaze and rescue those trapped inside. Airport police secured the terminal, searching for further threats and guiding panicked crowds. Emergency slides deployed. A human chain of courage formed as crew and staff pulled passengers to safety. Paramedics set up triage, treating injuries from burns to smoke inhalation. In the operations center, officials scrambled to understand how security had failed so catastrophically. The question loomed, if it could happen here, could it happen anywhere? The news from Fairbanks raced to the highest levels of government. It was clear this was a deliberate attack, exploiting a vulnerability in airport security. The fear, was this the first of many? The FAA and Homeland Security faced an agonizing decision. At 10:15 a.m. EST, the order came. Ground all commercial and private air traffic nationwide. Every plane was forbidden from taking off. Those in the air were ordered to land immediately. The U.S. national airspace system was shut down, a move not seen since 9/11. Air traffic controllers began the massive task of guiding thousands of planes to the ground. Pilots and passengers received the news with confusion and dread. Why land in Omaha instead of New York? The answer? The country was under threat. The sky, once a symbol of freedom, was now a potential battlefield. America held its breath. The grounding of every plane sent shockwaves through the nation. Airports from coast to coast fell silent. Departure boards froze. Thousands of planes sat idle. Terminals became waiting rooms of uncertainty. Travellers were stranded. Business trips, vacations and reunions erased in an instant. Hotels filled, rental cars vanished, and the infrastructure of travel buckled. The economic impact was immediate. Hundreds of millions lost each hour. Cargo, medical supplies and mail were grounded. Businesses relying on air travel saw customers disappear. The shutdown revealed how deeply air travel is woven into daily life. Guest speakers, technicians, even the mail, everything slowed or stopped. The empty sky became a symbol of vulnerability. People looked up, uneasy at the silent blue expanse. The nation felt the weight of the threat that had emerged from Alaska. Behind the headlines were millions of personal stories, each one a thread in the vast tapestry of human experience during the shutdown. In Denver, a young soldier's journey home to meet his newborn daughter was halted, his leave now hostage to a national crisis. His dreams of holding his child for the first time were put on pause, leaving him in a state of limbo. On a diverted plane in Nashville, high school band students stranded en route to a competition began to sing, lifting spirits in the tense cabin. Their voices echoed through the aisles, a reminder of hope and unity amidst uncertainty. Airport and airline employees faced angry, frightened crowds, doing their best to help despite their own fears. They became the unsung heroes, navigating chaos with patience and empathy. Pilots and flight attendants became counselors, arranging hotels and comforting passengers. They offered a listening ear and a reassuring presence, even as they grappled with their own uncertainties. For families of those on Flight 1282, the wait for news was agonizing. Every moment stretched into eternity as they clung to their phones, desperate for any update. Every phone call brought hope or dread. The ringing phone was a lifeline, a potential bearer of good news or heartbreak. The uncertainty was excruciating, even as reports of a successful evacuation trickled in. Relief was tempered by the knowledge of what could have been. The true cost was measured not in dollars, but in trauma and interrupted lives. Each tear shed was a testament to the emotional toll of the shutdown. The shutdown was a mosaic of resilience and heartbreak. It tested the limits of human endurance and compassion. The nation watched and waited. In living rooms and public spaces, eyes were glued to screens, hearts united in shared anticipation. As the hours passed, it became clear the Fairbanks attack was an isolated act by a lone individual. The nationwide ground stop, though disruptive, had worked. Lives were saved. The crisis became a real-world test of emergency response. Across the country, strangers helped each other, sharing food, offering rides, opening homes. The tragedy brought out resilience and compassion, uniting people in adversity. Aviation security was overhauled, closing the vulnerability that had been exploited. The pursuit of safety became a renewed, ongoing mission. July 16, 2025, is remembered for courage and unity. Firefighters, flight attendants, and ordinary citizens became heroes. The empty skies were a symbol of a nation's resolve and its determination to move forward together.